You've been lied to your entire life. And the worst part? You believed it so completely that you turned it into your identity. You became the person who does, who achieves, who never stops moving. You wear your exhaustion like a badge of honor. You brag about how little you sleep. You fill every single moment with something, anything, because the alternative terrifies you. The alternative is stillness, and stillness feels like death to you, doesn't it? But here's what nobody told you. Here's the secret that changes everything. That feeling of terror when you stop. That's not weakness. That's not laziness. That's the exact moment when you're about to discover who you actually are underneath all the performance. Every overachiever I've ever met is running from the same thing. They're running from a question, a simple, devastating question that sits in the silence, waiting. The question is this: if I'm not doing anything, if I'm not achieving anything, if I'm not proving anything to anyone, then who am I? And you know what? You should be asking that question, because the answer will blow your mind wide open. You think productivity is your strength. You think constant motion is what makes you valuable. But I'm going to show you something that will flip your entire understanding of reality upside down. The most powerful thing you can possibly do is absolutely nothing. Not the fake nothing where you're scrolling through your phone. Not the anxious nothing where you're mentally making lists. I'm talking about real nothing. The kind of nothing that makes your nervous system scream. The kind of nothing where you sit there and let reality show you what it's been trying to tell you all along. You want to know why this works? Let me explain how this whole thing actually operates. Reality isn't a ladder you climb. It's not a race you win. Reality is a vast field of infinite possibilities, and every single one of those possibilities is trying to reach you right now. But you're moving so fast, you're so loud, you're so busy performing your life that you can't hear any of it. Think about water for a second. When water is turbulent, when it's moving and crashing and chaotic, you can't see through it. You can't see what's underneath. But when water becomes completely still, it becomes transparent. You can see all the way to the bottom. You can see things you never knew were there. Your mind works exactly the same way. When you're constantly doing, constantly moving, constantly achieving, your mind is turbulent water. And in that turbulence, you can only see what's right in front of you. The next task, the next goal, the next thing to prove. But when you stop, when you become completely still, suddenly you can see everything. You can see patterns you never noticed. You can see connections between things that seemed unrelated. You can see opportunities that were invisible to you before. This isn't mystical nonsense. This is how consciousness actually works. Every major breakthrough, every genius insight, every moment of creative brilliance in human history happened in stillness. Not in the grinding, not in the hustle, not in the productive hours. Einstein discovered relativity while daydreaming. Archimedes had his eureka moment in a bath. Newton saw the apple fall while sitting under a tree, doing absolutely nothing. You know why? Because insight doesn't come from thinking harder. Insight comes from allowing space for something bigger than your thinking to emerge. Your conscious mind, the part of you that plans and achieves and makes lists, is incredibly limited. It can only process a tiny fraction of reality at any given moment. But there's another part of you, a deeper intelligence, that's processing everything all the time. It sees the whole picture. It knows things your conscious mind hasn't figured out yet. It has answers to questions you haven't even asked. But that deeper intelligence only speaks in silence. When you're constantly busy, you're cutting yourself off from the wisest part of yourself. You're living in the shallow end of your own consciousness. And then you wonder why everything feels so hard. You wonder why you have to force everything. You wonder why success feels empty even when you achieve it. It's because you're not operating from your full capacity. You're operating from about 5% of what you actually are. So here's what happens when you stop. When you really truly stop and do nothing. At first, it's uncomfortable. Your mind will throw every excuse at you. You'll feel lazy. You'll feel guilty. You'll feel like you're wasting time. That's just your conditioning screaming at you because it's losing control. Push through that. Sit with that discomfort. Because on the other side of that discomfort is something extraordinary. By the way, our shared space of light and awareness is on its way to 100,000 people. Thank you to everyone who subscribes and brings this moment closer. What happens in that stillness is this. You start to notice things. You notice the quality of your own thoughts. You notice patterns in your behavior that you've been repeating for years without realizing it. You notice where your energy actually goes. And most importantly, you start to notice the space between your thoughts. That space is everything. That space is where creation happens. That space is where reality communicates with you. You'll start to notice something else too. You'll start to notice that ideas come to you. Not because you're forcing them. Not because you're brainstorming or strategizing or working really hard. They just appear, fully formed, crystal clear. And these ideas are better than anything you could have come up with through effort. This is what people used to call inspiration, divine inspiration. They thought it was some external force giving them ideas. But it's not external. It's you. It's the deepest part of you finally getting a chance to speak. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you start operating from this place, from this stillness, your actions become effortless. Not because you're not doing anything, but because you're only doing what actually needs to be done. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop forcing things that aren't ready to happen. You start moving with reality instead of against it. You become efficient in a way that productivity culture could never teach you, because you're not just managing your time better. You're accessing a completely different level of intelligence. Let me tell you what this looks like in practice. When you embrace doing nothing, when you build it into your life as a non-negotiable, everything starts to shift. Problems that seemed impossible suddenly have obvious solutions. People you need to meet just show up in your life. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. Timing becomes perfect without you having to engineer it. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This is what happens when you stop blocking the natural flow of reality with your constant interference. You've been taught that you have to make everything happen, that you have to push and grind and hustle your way to success. And sure, that works sometimes. You can force things, but it's exhausting and it's limiting, because you can only force what you can imagine. You can only create what your limited conscious mind can conceive. But when you step back, when you do nothing and let reality move, you get access to possibilities you never could have imagined. You get access to a level of orchestration that's so far beyond what your individual effort could create. Think about nature for a second. Trees don't hustle. Rivers don't grind. Mountains don't have morning routines, but they're all incredibly powerful. They all create massive impact. They do it by being what they are and allowing natural forces to work through them. You're the same. You're part of nature. You have natural forces trying to work through you. But you keep interrupting those forces with your plans and your strategies and your need to control everything. What if you stopped interrupting? What if you trusted that there's an intelligence in reality that's bigger than your individual planning? What if you allowed yourself to be moved instead of constantly trying to move everything else? This is the wisdom that every ancient tradition tried to teach. The Taoists called it Wu Wei, action through non-action. The idea that the most powerful action comes from alignment with the natural flow of things, not from forcing your will onto reality. Modern culture lost this understanding completely. We turned everything into a competition, everything into a metric to optimize, everything into something to achieve. And in the process, we lost our connection to the deeper intelligence that actually runs everything. But you can get it back. Right now, today. All you have to do is stop. Stop filling every moment. Stop proving yourself. Stop running from the silence. Just stop. Sit there. Do nothing. Let the discomfort wash over you. Let the guilt come up. Let all the voices in your head scream about everything you should be doing. And just watch it all. Don't engage with it. Don't fight it. Just observe it. What you'll discover is that all of that noise isn't you. It's just conditioning. It's just programming. It's just stories you were told about what makes a person valuable. And none of it is true. The real you, the essential you, the you that exists underneath all the performance and achievement and constant doing, that you is incredibly powerful, that you doesn't need to prove anything, that you already knows everything you need to know, that you is connected to everything, and that you only emerges in stillness. So here's your new practice. Here's how you access your actual power. Every single day, you do nothing for at least 20 minutes. Not meditation with a goal, not relaxation with a purpose, just nothing. You sit there. You stare at the wall if you want. You let your mind wander. You don't try to be productive with your nothing time. You just let it be nothing, and you watch what happens. You watch how different you feel afterward. You watch how much clearer everything becomes. You watch how solutions start appearing. You watch how your whole life starts to reorganize itself around this practice. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to tell you. Your constant doing isn't making you successful. It's making you blind. It's keeping you trapped in a tiny version of what's actually possible for you. The moment you stop, the moment you create space, reality rushes in to fill that space with everything you've been blocking. This is what all the great teachers knew. This is what all the mystics and sages and philosophers were pointing at. Not that you should never do anything, but that doing should come from being, not from anxiety. Action should come from clarity, not from fear. Movement should come from alignment with what wants to happen, not from desperate attempts to force outcomes. When you master this, when you truly understand the wisdom of doing nothing, you become unstoppable. Not because you're working harder than everyone else, but because you're working with reality instead of against it. You're accessing intelligence that most people don't even know exists. You're moving from a place of wholeness instead of lack. And everything changes. Your relationships change because you're not constantly performing. Your work changes because you're only doing what actually matters. Your inner experience changes because you're not at war with yourself anymore. You finally understand that you don't have to earn your existence. You don't have to justify taking up space. You don't have to achieve anything to be valuable. You already are valuable. You already are whole. You already are connected to everything. You just couldn't see it because you were too busy trying to become something you already were. So, stop. Right now. After this video ends, don't immediately jump to the next thing. Don't check your notifications. Don't start planning your next move. Just sit there. Do nothing. Feel the discomfort. Feel the urge to move. And don't move. Just be there with yourself. With the real you. The one who's been waiting underneath all the noise this whole time. That's where your power is. That's where your answers are. That's where everything you've been searching for has always been. Not in the next achievement. Not in the next goal. Not in the next thing you accomplish. But right here. Right now. In the stillness. In the nothing. In the space where you finally stop running and let yourself be found. If this video changed something in you, write in the comments, I choose stillness. Write it as your promise to yourself. Nobody